Hey guys, welcome to The Drop. I'm Neha.
I'm Maha.
And I'm Safia.
All hail Bran the Broken, protector of the realm, the first of his name, and king of the 6 kingdoms of Westeros. People on social media are not very happy with the way Game of Thrones has ended. What do you think?
I would agree with them. I believe from seasons 1 to 7, it was universally acclaimed, and everyone was like, this is one of the best series. And then season 8 was supposed to end with a bang, but for me, it didn't. It was disappointing.
I agree with Maha. I've been one of those people who have, unfortunately, since episode 1 of season 8, not liked whatever is happening, because I could tell as a fan, as someone who's watched this series for 8 years, I could tell that something is very different the way they're directing it. It was the same characters that we loved, but unfortunately, we did not see them in the way that we ourselves know them, right? HBO allowed all of this direction to take place within 10 episodes, yet it was limited to 6. It was rushed. Definitely,
Yeah,
it was rushed.
I definitely see that. I mean, for me, the problem wasn't necessarily the plot or who ended up on the throne, but it was how quickly we reached there. The quick pacing meant that the character development had to take a back seat. And if we'd seen more of that, I think, yeah, exactly, we would have been more happy with the way it
There
ended.
were some technical issues also, if you realize. Like, do you remember?
Yes.
They left a bottle. Yeah. Again, last time it was a Starbucks cup, this time around there was a water bottle. Yes. Another thing, in season 1 there was an episode in which the show dedicated one entire episode to the journey to King's Landing. That took 2 months. And Arya magically reaches there in time to kill Cersei. I mean...
But I think, again, even if we do accept that, the problem is that what we didn't get was those little scenes in the middle of the big scenes that basically would tell you what motivated our characters to behave in such a way. And speaking of behaving, Daenerys was very indifferent in this episode. And do you think that was justified?
No, I don't think it was. I mean, she was indifferent in this whole season. And you can, compare her to Jon Snow. He's a leader as well, but he has remorse, And she believes this is for the betterment of the people. But honestly, I don't believe killing all the innocents in King's Landing was justifiable.
I think that is exactly what made her the Mad Queen and sort of like started those domino of, Jon killing her in the end. Did you like the way she ended?
No, definitely not. I may have empathized with her had they allowed me to do so. For example, we all were very upset when Miss Andre was beheaded, right? Had they allowed us 1 10 to 15 minute insight into what was going on in Dany's head afterwards, perhaps we would have been able to rationalize that anger, and we would have been able to understand what they did only for the audience, just to create a shock factor in the end. That, here she goes burning the entire King's Landing. Extremely disappointed in the way she was composed, because she was this poised leader who was supposed to be different since the beginning of time, right?
Speaking of leaders and, not doing some justice to their arcs, I have a huge issue with Jon's arc this season. I mean, the biggest secret of Westeros, what actually started this entire mess, the rebellion against Mad King, was Jon's parentage. And we built up to all of these things. We find out it's a big secret. We're all shocked. And in the last episode, all of it meant nothing.
Why the hell was he Aegon? What was the point of it? My biggest problem with the fans right now even is that they're trying to make it sound poetic somehow, that all that happened in the episode 1 of season 1, for example, Sansa goes like, I want to be the queen, and Arya goes like, I want to see the world. So they're like, oh, it's kind of a full arc. It's not.
No.
If Game of Thrones was that predictable or that basic, as a matter of fact, it would not have the fan base it has worldwide.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely Jon Snow is one of the biggest characters of this show, and this season for me, he was essentially a puppet. He had like 3 lines. So
you're my queen.
You're my queen.
For one.
He also had a claim to the throne, yet he just stayed back. There was no significance.
In my opinion,
I'm okay with Jon not being the king in the end. I just think they should have addressed why he's not the king, or he should have, there should have been something more.
He ended at the Night's Watch.
A very pivotal scene was omitted. We should have seen what happened to Jon the second he killed Dany. When Grey Worm, we should have seen the part where the Unsullied and Grey Worm confront Jon and ask him why he did what he did. His absence when the council meets was absolutely
unfair to his character.
It was very unbecoming of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Tyrion was there, and of course we all love and respect Tyrion because he's probably the only voice of wisdom. But to just shun Jon to the Night's Watch, which by the way has no purpose at all now.
Well, that is a question. Well, to be fair, in the books, when they first defeated the White Walkers after the first long night, they still had the Night's Watch because it's an organization that is just there to keep a lookout. So I can see why Night's Watch still exists. I just don't know. I mean, and I'm okay with Jon going there. Again, I just feel that there should have been more within that character before he left, to join the Night's Watch. Speaking of all of these things, that the council that you mentioned, what they introduced to us is not necessarily democracy, but a sort of democracy.
A hint at it.
Yeah, a hint at it.
I feel it's contradicting
Is
the
it?
whole Game of Thrones, because this is a fight for the throne. It is the king's children who are fighting for this. If you make it a democracy, that is not Game of Thrones, is it?
I think I'll disagree with Maha a little here because it is, okay, even though Bran is the king now, right? But they're showing us through Sam that after a while, democracy will prevail. And that's exactly the system that we have in today's world.
And basically the past 7 seasons, all that they have basically told us is that, just because a man is a good king doesn't mean that his son is going to be a good king. They've basically hinted at all of that all this time.
How surprised was I when Bran says, "Why do you think I've come all this way?"
my
I was like,
God,
you are
yes.
sneaky.
That creepy bird, he
Yeah.
knew it all along.
Exactly.
But yeah, I do have questions. Was that why the Night King was so hell-bent
Also-
on wanting to kill Bran? Was it the king he wanted to
He
kill?
has been, okay, for me, Bran has represented something way above a throne, which way beyond one, right? For example, he is the history of mankind. He is the memory of mankind. To then materialize that, someone that is beyond humanity per se, because he says to another character that I'm no longer Bran.
Yeah.
I'm the three-eyed raven.
Yeah.
Well, that literally contradicts what he's doing now, because if he is the king, then you have a lot of responsibility on your shoulder.
Absolutely.
In my opinion, he should have remained this person who was out of touch and, in between a liminal entity somehow.
I mean,
between two
definitely,
worlds.
but that has been Game of Thrones' way. They don't spoon feed us. There are some loopholes which, you can never completely tie in a perfect story in a perfect way. So I still think it was certainly a big part of our
Can I
lives.
ask something though? I think you guys will agree with me. How amazing was Tyrion Lannister this
Oh
season?
yes,
How
definitely.
amazing
Tyrion
was
is the
Tyrion?
man.
Yeah.
And we'll be
Yeah.
and we'll be talking more about Tyrion and the rest of the series very shortly. Because stay tuned for a series overview. This is all for now.